The Starlight Protocol Station gleamed like a colossal, multifaceted gem suspended in the endless void, the fragile heart of a tenuous peace among galactic civilizations. Here, the greatest minds of hundreds of species convened, not for conflict, but to seek common ground, a glimmer of shared existence. Delegations arrived from across the cosmos, some in imposing battleships, others in gleaming light-infused vessels, or even organic biocraft that pulsed with life. Then a raw, grating shriek tore through the solemn quiet. The harsh grinding of engines, a violent metallic screech, and a drawn-out tearing K-chunk of tearing metal. It was the Terran transport vessel, the Iron Will, a battered, scarred hunk of spacefaring scrap metal, struggling to dock with an undignified lurch. A tense hush fell over the grand chamber as the Iron Will's boarding ramp hissed open. Instead of a decorated general or a polished diplomat, a tall, gaunt figure emerged. His blonde hair fell disheveled across a perpetually tired face, and his blue eyes held a world-weary gaze that seemed far too old for his apparent youth. This was Kael, a teenager, unremarkable in his worn leather jacket and faded jeans. He carried a bulky backpack and, most oddly, a crudely tied wooden box clutched carefully in one hand. Kael's gaze swept across the vast chamber, where hundreds of alien eyes, now wide with a mix of surprise and disdain, fixed upon him. The Warlord, with their deep purple, almost black skin, their chitinous plates clicking softly. The Etheria, luminescent and ethereal, glowing with a soft emerald light, and the formidable red-skinned warriors of the Dra'ken Empire all stared. "What is this place?" Kael mumbled, his voice utterly devoid of the solemnity the setting demanded. "Seriously? No red carpet? I thought this was supposed to be a big deal." A soft groan escaped from behind him. Ambassador Serafina, a woman with neatly pinned dark hair and an impeccably tailored navy suit, struggled to maintain her composure. Lines of stress etched her forehead, and her grip on her briefcase was white-knuckled. "Kael, please," she whispered, her voice laced with desperation. "This is the Starlight Protocol Station. It's significant." "Significant, huh?" Kael scoffed, walking towards a colossal crystalline statue that dominated the center of the chamber. He ran a finger over its cold, smooth surface, a look of skepticism on his face. "Looks like a really fancy waiting room. Or maybe a really boring museum." A ripple of uncomfortable snickers passed through the Warlord delegation, quickly stifled by sharp glares from the other species. High Commander Zarak, the supreme leader of the Dra'ken fleet, a monstrous being with crimson skin and wicked curving horns, snarled. His voice boomed through the chamber, translated by the station's omnipresent linguistic matrix. "This is an insult. Humanity sends a child to the Protocol Council? You mock us!" Kael turned, his eyes unwavering. "I'm not a child. I'm 18, and who are you, big red fella? You look like you need a nap." A chilling silence descended. Ambassador Serafina closed her eyes, a barely audible sigh escaping her lips. "Commander Zarak, my sincerest apologies. He can be impulsive." Zarak strode forward, his massive form casting a long shadow over Kael. He raised a clawed hand, poised to strike. "I will teach you respect, primitive." But before Zarak could act, Kael did something utterly unexpected. He carefully set his wooden box on the polished floor with the reverence of handling something incredibly fragile. Then he looked up, and a strange glint entered his blue eyes. A slow, knowing smirk spread across his face. "You want to fight? Fine. But don't say I didn't warn you." In that precise moment, an invisible wave of energy emanated from Kael. There was no explosion, no blinding flash of light, only a subtle shift in the air pressure. A spine-tingling tremor that coursed through every sentient being present. Those with heightened senses perceived a minute fluctuation in the station's ambient energy field. High Commander Zarak froze mid-stride, his massive arm locked in place, as if encased in invisible amber. His crimson face contorted in a silent snarl of rage and confusion. He couldn't move. Not a single being in the grand chamber could move. They were utterly motionless, living statues, only their eyes betraying the raw, escalating horror of their predicament. Kael walked casually towards Zarak, his hands still in his pockets, his demeanor as relaxed as if he were strolling through a park. He gazed up at the commander's frozen, furious face. "See, I told you. I don't like violence. But if you insist on being a bully, I don't really have a choice, do I? He tapped the wooden box gently. The soft, rhythmic knocking echoed in the profound silence, like the ticking of a cosmic clock counting down to an unknown future. If you're captivated by this enigmatic encounter and eager to uncover the secrets behind Kael's power and the hidden truths Earth holds, make sure to subscribe to the Alien Whispers channel right now. Don't miss out on what happens next and join us in unraveling the mysteries of the cosmos. The air in the Starlight Protocol Station's grand chamber thrummed with a silent, volatile tension. High Commander Zarak, still stiff with the residue of Kael's unseen force, finally managed to wrench his hand down, his clawed fingers trembling. This is not diplomacy. This is a declaration. It was self-defense, Commander, Ambassador Serafina interjected, her voice firm despite the tremor in her hands. A demonstration to prevent a greater incident. Earth wishes to emphasize our commitment to peace. However, our species has certain thresholds for being provoked. Kael, now perched casually on the crystalline statue he'd been examining, swung his legs, a picture of indifference. Yeah, like when someone tries to slap you or messes with your stuff. He patted the wooden box still on the floor with his foot. Ambassador Alara, the violet-skinned Zelos, drifted closer, her ethereal escort shimmering with silent curiosity. Human Kael, her voice a liquid melody, your abilities are singular. They do not register on any known energy spectrum. What is the nature of this resilience you speak of? Her large, lustrous eyes, the color of a twilight nebula, fixed on him. Kael shrugged. It's not some fancy energy shield or mind control trick. It's focus and a lot of stubbornness. We humans, we tend to dig in our heels when pushed. He leaned back, crossing his arms. And believe me, we've been pushed a lot. Zarak, his crimson scales flaring slightly, scoffed. A primitive concept. Brute force and obstinance. You speak as if this makes you a threat to galactic order. Threat? Kael laughed, a short, dry sound. Nah, we just don't like getting pushed around. And we're pretty good at pushing back. You should ask the last species that tried to civilize us. He raised an eyebrow, a challenge in his gaze. They're not around anymore. Not as an empire, anyway. A ripple of unease spread through the various delegations. The Dra'ken were known for their aggressive expansion, their history rife with conquered worlds. Kael's casual remark struck a chord of genuine fear. Your bluntness is disarming, Alara mused, a faint smile gracing her delicate features. But if this resilience is not a weapon, then what purpose does it serve in a diplomatic forum? Purpose? Kael looked genuinely confused. It serves the purpose of me not getting slapped, and Ambassador Serafina not having to clean up my mess. He slid off the statue. Look, we came here for talks, right? Not for a street fight. But if you want a street fight, we can do that too. We're pretty flexible. Serafina stepped forward, placing a hand on Kael's shoulder, a silent plea for restraint. Kael, we understand your forthrightness, but perhaps we can explain Earth's position in a more diplomatic manner. She turned to the Council. Earth's advancements, particularly in what we term adaptogenic psionics, are a result of our species' unique evolutionary path. For millennia, we faced extreme environmental and social pressures. These pressures did not break us, they forged us. They led to the development of latent abilities, often triggered by intense emotional or physical stress. Stress? Zarak barked a harsh laugh. You claim your power comes from stress? That is absurd, is it? Kael interjected, his voice losing its bored tone and gaining an edge of something colder. Imagine a species that has to constantly fight for survival, not just against other life forms, but against itself. Against famine, disease, and justice. We learn to adapt. Fast. We learn to push past what's normal. And sometimes that means pushing through a wall. Sometimes it means making someone else stop moving. It's all about getting through the moment. He looked directly at Zarak. Your species thrives on structured conflict. Ours thrives on chaos. Big difference. The Etheria, with their shimmering forms, pulse subtly, their collective consciousness sensing the raw, untamed force that Kael represented. Their emerald eyes, usually placid, now showed a flicker of ancient apprehension. This human was not merely powerful, he was unpredictable, embodying a kind of fundamental disruption that few other species could comprehend. So there are others like him? A high-pitched voice chimed in from the Veklar delegation. The small orange alien huddled further into its robes. How many others are there? Serafina paused, a strategic glint in her eyes. Suffice it to say, the human species has a remarkable capacity for adaptogenic psionics. It is not a skill taught in academies, nor honed in military training. It is inherent, a byproduct of our turbulent history. Kael picked up his wooden box. And trust me, he added, a wry smile playing on his lips, you definitely don't want to meet my grandma. She's way scarier than me. A collective murmur swept through the chamber, a mix of disbelief and growing unease. If this raw, untamed power was merely a byproduct of humanity's history, and Kael was just one example, what else could they be hiding? The implications were staggering, forcing every delegation to reevaluate their understanding of the seemingly unremarkable species from the third planet of Sol. High Commander Zarak's heavy breathing filled the brief silence, his frustration palpable. You speak of a turbulent history, human, yet your species has only recently achieved interstellar travel. We have observed your planet for centuries. You are fractured, warring, consumed by petty conflicts. How could such chaos forge this? He gestured vaguely at Kael. Exactly, Kael said, his voice flat. Because we were fractured. Because we warred. Because we had petty conflicts. You guys, he waved a hand at the assembled aliens, you've had it easy. Stable societies, clear hierarchies, logical progression. Earth was a pressure cooker. Every problem was a new kind of fire to walk through. We didn't have neat solutions. We had to make them, usually out of nothing but desperation and spite. He paused, a flicker of something raw in his eyes. That kind of crucible changes you. It changes your bones, your mind, everything. Ambassador Alara, ever the calm observer, extended a shimmering, translucent hand towards a nearby console, activating a data display. Our historical archives show a period on your planet Earth where a global conflict nearly annihilated your species. Yet you recovered. And not just recovered, but diversified, innovated at an astonishing rate. Could this adaptogenic psionics be a direct result of such cataclysms? Maybe, Serafina replied, a thoughtful expression on her face. Or maybe those cataclysms merely revealed what was always there, like striking a rock to find a diamond. The pressure just made the diamond visible. She looked at Kael. We don't truly understand the full scope of it ourselves, Commander. It's not something we can quantify or replicate in a lab. It just is. Zarak slammed a clawed fist on his console again, the sound echoing through the chamber. Unacceptable. An uncontrolled, unpredictable power cannot be allowed to exist unchecked within galactic society. We demand that Earth submit to full council oversight. Your psionics must be contained, cataloged, and if necessary, neutralized. Kael raised an eyebrow. Neutralized? You mean like eliminated? Good luck with that. He jumped off the statue, walking slowly towards Zarak. His voice dropped, losing its casual edge and gaining a dangerous undertone. See, the problem with trying to neutralize something you don't understand is that you usually just make it matter. And when humans get mad, especially the ones with this resilience thing, things tend to get messy. Historically, the Etheria delegation began to hum, a low, discordant frequency that indicated distress. The Veklar delegate visibly trembled, trying to make himself smaller in his seat. The implication hung heavy in the air. Humanity wasn't just unpredictable, it was a volatile element that could react violently to perceived threats. This is a thinly veiled threat, human, Zarak accused, his massive body tensing. Is it? Kael stopped a few paces from Zarak, his blue eyes unwavering. Or is it just a warning based on literally thousands of years of recorded data? We've learned the hard way. When you corner a creature, it bites. We're no different. We just bite harder than you'd expect. Serafina quickly stepped between them. Commander Kael is merely expressing a historical observation. Earth's resilience is a defensive mechanism, a capacity for self-preservation that manifests under duress. We have no desire to project this power offensively. Our presence here is a testament to our desire for peaceful integration. She gave Kael a stern look, a silent message for him to back down. Kael sighed, running a hand through his disheveled hair. Fine, diplomacy. I get it, but seriously, neutralized? That's a strong word for something you barely even know exists. He picked up his wooden box again, cradling it in his arms. Besides, even if you tried, you probably couldn't. It's not something you can just switch off. The debate continued, growing more heated. Zarak insisted on immediate containment protocols for Earth and its population, citing the unprecedented danger Kael represented. Ambassador Alara argued for observation and research, suggesting that such a unique evolutionary trait could hold keys to new understandings of sentience itself. The Veklar delegate, still quivering, simply pleaded for caution, his voice barely a whisper in the cacophony. The Grand Chamber, designed for reasoned debate, was now a maelstrom of fear, suspicion, and conflicting agendas, all sparked by one seemingly ordinary human teenager and his quiet, unexplainable power. Ambassador Serafina, weary but resolute, addressed the council. We understand your concerns. Kael's abilities are unusual, but they are not aggressive. They are a manifestation of our will to endure, to survive. We have no desire to impose this resilience on anyone. We simply ask for the right to exist, unmolested, and to participate in this council as equals. She glanced at Kael, who had quietly pulled out a small, worn book from his backpack and was flipping through its pages, seemingly oblivious to the heated debate. Unmolested? Zarak scoffed, pacing before his delegation. You claim peace, yet unleash a weapon that freezes an entire chamber. This is deception, a Trojan horse from a species too cunning for its own good. If we wanted to decimate this station, Commander, Kael interjected, not looking up from his book, we wouldn't have brought a single teenager in an old cargo freighter. We'd have sent something a lot louder, and a lot less subtle. He turned a page. Trust me, if Earth was interested in galactic conquest, you'd know about it. Our history books are full of galactic conquests that lasted like 10 minutes because someone got bored or ran out of snacks. The absurdity of his statement momentarily silenced the room. Even Zarak seemed to falter, processing the strange blend of flippancy and underlying threat. Ambassador Alara's eyes shimmered, her gaze fixed on Kael and his worn book. What is that you are reading, human Kael? Is it a manual for your abilities? Kael finally looked up, a faint smile playing on his lips. This? Nah. It's just a story. Old Earth fiction. He held up the book, its cover faded but vaguely depicting a figure in a cowboy hat against a desert backdrop. It's about a guy who just keeps going no matter what. Like everyone tells him he can't, but he just does. It's pretty good. He tapped the cover. It reminds me of home. Serafina seized the momentary shift in tone. Indeed, humanity's true strength often lies not in overt power, but in our narratives, our ability to imagine, to endure, to hope. This resilience is a part of that. It's not a switch we flip. It's a deep-seated instinct, honed by centuries of overcoming impossible odds. She looked around the room, meeting the gaze of each species. We didn't come here to threaten. We came to connect, to share our stories. And yes, to occasionally remind you that we're tougher than we look. The Xylo's ambassador, Alara, floated forward, her luminous form a stark contrast to Zarak's rigid fury. Perhaps we have misunderstood your species, Terrans. Our analysis protocols categorize you as highly volatile, but largely contained. This adaptogenic psionics was never factored into our models. She paused, her voice a soft hum. We request a more in-depth demonstration. A controlled environment. To better understand this, resilience, Zarak immediately objected. Out of the question. This is too dangerous. We must isolate the subject. Kael closed his book, placing it back in his backpack. Isolate? Commander, you can't isolate something that's baked into every single one of us. It's like trying to isolate gravity from a planet. It's just there. He stood up, walking back towards Ambassador Serafina. But a demonstration? Sure, if it helps you all sleep better. But no dissection. And no more slaps. My grandmother would kill me if I let anyone try. Serafina gave Kael a look that blended exasperation and gratitude. We are open to a controlled demonstration under Council supervision, with strict parameters to ensure the safety of all parties. It is essential for mutual understanding. The Council descended into a new round of heated debate, caught between Zarak's fear-driven calls for containment and Alara's intellectual curiosity. The very presence of Kael, his casual power and even more casual demeanor, had irrevocably altered the galactic perception of humanity. They were no longer merely volatile, they were fundamentally different, operating by a set of rules no other species seemed to comprehend. The Iron Will had brought more than just an ambassador. It had delivered a paradigm shift, contained within a tired teenager in his mysterious wooden box. The Starlight Protocol Station, usually a bastion of rigid order, buzzed with an undercurrent of nervous energy. The Council, after hours of tense deliberation, had reluctantly agreed to Ambassador Alara's proposal, a controlled resilience evaluation. This was not to be a combat trial, but an isolated, non-lethal observation of Kael's abilities, designed to measure, if not understand, the nature of humanity's unique adaptogenic psionics. The primary concern for most species wasn't Kael's aggression, but his unpredictability. The designated evaluation chamber was a circular dome of reinforced synth crystal, designed to contain any known energy signature. Inside, Kael stood in the center, looking unimpressed. He had agreed to leave his wooden box just outside the chamber's entrance, much to the relief of the council observers. Surrounding him, projected holographically onto the chamber walls, were various challenges designed to elicit a resilient response without causing harm. These included simulations of extreme gravitational shifts, sonic bombardments, and even complex psychological puzzles intended to induce mental duress. High Commander Zarak observed from a shielded viewing gallery, his mandibles twitching. This is folly. You cannot measure a chaotic variable. It will lash out. Ambassador Alara next to him disagrees softly. On the contrary, Commander, true chaos often reveals underlying patterns. We seek to understand the triggers for this unique human adaptation. To what extent is it voluntary? To what extent is it instinctive? Her glowing emerald eyes were fixed on Kael. The first challenge began. The chamber floor warped, simulating a sudden, violent gravitational shift. The holographic walls twisted, creating a disorienting visual effect. Kael stumbled, caught himself, and then sighed. Seriously, that's it? I had worse vertigo trying to read in the back of our transport. He adjusted his stance, swaying slightly but remaining upright, completely unaffected by the simulated forces that would have crushed most unaugmented species. Remarkable, Alara murmured. His bio-readings show no sign of internal strain. His autonomic nervous system remains perfectly stable. The simulations intensified. Sonic pulses designed to induce nausea and disorientation washed over him. Kael just frowned, pressing his hands against his ears. Ugh, is this what your music sounds like? No wonder you guys are so serious all the time. He shivered. Can we skip this one? It's genuinely annoying. Zarak slammed a fist on the console. He mocks us. He dismisses our most advanced psychological stressors as mere annoyances. He appears to be experiencing discomfort, Commander, Serafina countered calmly, but not incapacitation. This aligns with our understanding of human resilience, the ability to endure, not necessarily to enjoy, adverse conditions. Then came the psychological challenge, a rapid-fire sequence of complex alien symbols and logical paradoxes designed to overwhelm the cognitive functions. Most species would fall into a catatonic state or experience severe mental distress. Kael stared at the symbols for a moment, his brow furrowed. Is this a puzzle? Because it's a terrible one. The syntax is all wrong for a closed loop. It's got like 3 different solutions. None of them actually make sense. He rolled his eyes. Who designed this? A bot that only understands yes or no. A small, purple-skinned Warlord technician monitoring the cognitive responses gasped. He just identified the flaws in our Etheria design paradox array. That's impossible. It takes centuries of dedicated study to even grasp the underlying principles. Kael shrugged. Like I said, we get bored easily. And when we're bored, we find problems. And when we find problems, we fix them. Or at least point out how dumb they are. Alara's ethereal form shimmered with suppressed excitement. This is not mere resistance to stress, Commander Zarak. This is adaptive cognitive processing. His mind is not merely enduring, it is analyzing and rejecting the very premises of the challenge. A truly unique evolutionary branch. Zarak, however, saw only further confirmation of a threat. He is too dangerous. He cannot be understood, therefore he cannot be controlled. He must be removed. His hand hovered over a red console indicating a containment field. Suddenly, Kael stumbled, clutching his head. His eyes, for the first time, showed genuine pain. The chamber's ambient lights flickered. The holographic simulation sputtered. "Wait, what was that?" he mumbled, swaying. Something just shifted. He looked around, his gaze piercing through the transparent walls of the chamber, locking onto something far beyond the station itself. His expression changed from annoyance to a grim realization, as if a distant, barely perceptible alarm had just sounded in his mind. Kael stumbled again, his hands flying up to his head. The meticulously controlled environment, a year of the evaluation chamber, seemed to glitch around him. Holographic displays flickered erratically, and the gentle hum of the station's life support wavered. High Commander Zarak, seeing Kael's distress, rose in triumph. "A weakness. His resilience has a limit." Ambassador Serafina, however, saw the subtle shift in Kael's eyes, a look she recognized from countless reports. It wasn't pain from the simulation, it was a profound, deep-seated awareness. "Kael, what is it?" she urged, leaning towards the communication panel. Kael ignored them all, his gaze fixed on a point far beyond the observation dome, far beyond the Starlight Protocol Station itself. "No," he whispered, his voice strained. "Not a weakness. Just a really bad feeling." He dropped to one knee, clutching his wooden box as if it were a lifeline. "Something's coming. Something big." A low, guttural growl vibrated through the chamber's speakers from Zarak. "He is attempting to distract us, to escape the evaluation." But then a klaxon blared through the station, echoing the sudden, sharp alarm that had just pierced Kael's senses. The station's primary view screen, usually displaying peaceful nebulae, suddenly snapped to a tactical overlay. Red indicators pulsed rapidly, converging on the Starlight Protocol Station from every vector. "Intruder alert!" a synthesized voice shrieked through the comms. "Unidentified fleet detected. Massive energy signatures. Impact imminent." Panic erupted in the viewing gallery. Delegates scrambled, their varied forms bumping into each other in a frantic rush for cover. Zarak roared orders to his Dra'ken guards, who immediately drew their energy lances, their red scales gleaming under the flashing emergency lights. Ambassador Alara, her luminous form dimming slightly in distress, floated towards Serafina. "Who are they? What is happening?" Serafina's face was grim. She knew, Kael had known. "It's the Riven, an ancient threat, long thought dormant. They leave nothing but ruin." Kael, still on one knee, finally looked up, his face pale but resolute. "They're fast, faster than anything I've ever felt. And they're not here for talks." He pushed himself to his feet. "Get everyone to the reinforced shelters. Now!" His command, devoid of any official authority, somehow cut through the rising panic. Zarak, despite his animosity, found himself barking the same order, a primal instinct for survival overriding protocol. The Starlight Protocol Station, a symbol of diplomacy, was about to become a battleground. The first Riven warship, a jagged obsidian black vessel, tore through the station's outer defenses as if they were made of paper. The entire station shuddered, sending delegates sprawling. Alarms shrieked louder, and emergency bulkheads slammed shut, isolating sections of the station. Kael sprinted to the chamber's entrance, where his wooden box lay. He scooped it up, holding it protectively. "Ambassador, we need to move. These guys don't negotiate. They just consume." Serafina, regaining her composure, nodded. "To the emergency command center. It's the most fortified section." She barked orders into her wristcom, coordinating evacuation efforts. As they made their way through the now chaotic corridors, explosions rocked the station. The beautiful synth marble floors cracked, and life support systems flickered. Dra'ken warriors, usually formidable, were being cut down by unseen forces, their screams abruptly silenced. The Riven were merciless, swift, and utterly silent in their assault. They reached a fortified intersection. A group of Dra'ken guards, led by a hardened veteran, stood defiant, firing wildly into the shadowy corridors. "Ambassador, to the command center! We will hold them off!" the veteran roared, his voice thick with resolve. Kael paused, watching the chaos. He gripped his wooden box tighter. "This isn't going to work," he muttered. "They'll be overwhelmed." Serafina pulled at his arm. "Kael, we have to go! You are too important." Kael shook his head. "No, not yet. We need a distraction. A big one." He looked at the wooden box. "This is a really bad idea, but I don't think we have a choice." He took a deep breath, and a subtle shift rippled through the air around him. It wasn't the freezing effect he'd used on Zarak. This was different, more expansive, more fundamental. The very light in the corridor seemed to dim, drawn into him. The cries of the Riven attackers seemed to echo, strangely distorted, as if passing through a thick, unseen membrane. Kael closed his eyes for a moment, and when he opened them, they glowed with an eerie, internal blue light. "Get ready to run," Kael said, his voice no longer tired or bored, but resonant with an ancient, powerful resolve. "Because things are about to get really, really loud." Kael took one last, steadying breath. The air around him shimmered, pulled inward as if by an unseen vortex. He clutched the wooden box, his knuckles white. "Ambassador, get everyone back. Now." Serafina, though terrified, saw the resolute fire in his eyes. She trusted him. "Go, all of you! To the command center immediately!" she yelled, pushing a group of frozen Veklar delegates forward. Zarak for once didn't argue. He bellowed orders to his remaining Dra'ken, herding them towards the reinforced blast doors. Just as the last delegate vanished behind the closing doors, Kael opened the wooden box. It wasn't a weapon or a device. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, was a collection of seemingly mundane objects. A smooth river stone, a tarnished silver locket, a single dried flower, and a small, crudely carved wooden bird. These were not powerful artifacts, they were mementos. Each one pulsed with an incredibly faint, almost imperceptible warmth, a resonance of memory and emotion. He closed his eyes again, and the blue light from within him intensified, outlining his veins, making him seem almost translucent. He didn't focus on the attacking Riven, but on the memories these objects represented. The cool touch of the riverstone on a summer day, the faint scent of the flower from a cherished garden, the soft weight of the locket against skin, the simple joy of carving the wooden bird. He drew on something deeper than anger or fear. He drew on love, peace, and quiet, stubborn joy. The Riven, cloaked in shadows and moving with terrifying speed, flooded into the corridor. Their forms were indistinct, their movements a blur. They were a force of pure negation, designed to sow panic and consume all life. But then Kael unleashed it. Not an explosion, not a concussive blast, but a wave of absolute stillness. The Riven attackers, in mid-lunge, froze. They didn't turn to crystal like Zarak had. They simply stopped. Their shadowy forms flickered, struggled against an unseen force but couldn't advance. The air that had been filled with their silent, predatory advance became thick and heavy, as if time itself had congealed around them. The station's shuddering lessened, the alarms muted, and the distant explosions faded to muffled thuds. The chaos didn't disappear, it was merely paused. Kael swayed, visibly drained. The blue light faded from his eyes, and he leaned heavily against the wall, the open wooden box still clutched in his hands. "There," he gasped, his voice weak. "That should buy us some time." From inside the command center, Serafina peered through the viewport, her jaw dropping. The corridor was silent, filled with the motionless forms of the Riven. It was impossible. No known force could halt them. What was that, Kael?" she whispered, awe in her voice. Kael slid down the wall, sitting on the floor, the wooden box resting gently in his lap. He looked utterly exhausted. That's the real human resilience, Ambassador. It's not about punching harder. It's about finding a moment of calm, a sliver of peace, even when the entire universe is trying to tear you apart. It's about remembering what you're fighting for, not just what you're fighting against. He managed a weak, tired smile. It's about carrying your home with you, no matter where you are. Inside the command center, Zarak watched the halted Riven. His face, usually a mask of fury, was now one of profound bewilderment. "Unbelievable," he muttered almost to himself. "They weaponize serenity?" Ambassador Alara, her Etheria escort glowing brighter now, finally understood. "It is not a weapon, Commander. It is a shield of stillness, a projection of their inner calm. A defense born not of aggression, but a profound connection to their own history and emotion." She turned to Serafina, her eyes shining with newfound respect. "Your species, you are truly unique. You fight chaos with harmony." Kael outside closed the wooden box with a soft click. The faint warmth emanating from it seemed to return to him, recharging his weary frame. He slowly stood up, still leaning on the wall. The ribbon remained frozen, but he knew the effect wouldn't last forever. It was a temporary reprieve, a pause in the storm. The real fight was yet to come. The brief, impossible calm that Kael had conjured held the ribbon at bay, but the illusion of peace on the Starlight Protocol Station was shattered. Inside the command center, the council leaders, still shaken, stared at Kael on the external security feed. He stood guard over the frozen ribbon, a lone human holding back an ancient terror. "How long will that last?" Zarak demanded, his voice hushed for once. Serafina shook her head. "Not long, it's immensely draining. It buys us time, nothing more." Kael, sensing their gaze, gave a weak thumbs up through the reinforced synth crystal. "Hey, anyone got a plan B yet? This holding still thing is getting boring." Ambassador Alara, her luminescent form glowing with renewed purpose, stepped forward. "We must coordinate a counterattack. The Riven are vulnerable when their advance is disrupted. Their strength lies in their relentless momentum." Zarak, still grappling with the sheer audacity of Kael's power, nodded slowly. "My Dra'ken fleet can engage their vanguard. But we need a strategic advantage. Their numbers are overwhelming. They thrive on panic," Kael's voice crackled through the comms. "They feed on fear. If you can make them feel something else, confusion, doubt, they falter." He leaned closer to the external mic. "And they hate loud noises. Really, really hate them." Serafina relayed Kael's insights to the council. "He's right. Their parasitic nature means they are psychologically vulnerable. We need to hit them where they are weakest." She turned to Zarak. "Commander, can your fleet create a sonic barrage? A sustained, disorienting assault?" Zarak considered. "It would strain our energy cells, but it is possible. A focused sonic pulse, synchronized with a coordinated assault, it might create an opening." He looked at the feed of Kael. "But how do we exploit that opening? And how do we protect the station?" "We don't," Kael said, his voice now sounding remarkably clear despite his previous exhaustion. "We use the station. The whole thing." A collective gasp went through the room. "The station's core is designed for diplomatic functions, not combat," a Vector delegate shrieked. "Its energy output would shatter." "Not if you reroute it," Kael countered. "Not if you give it a reason to shatter. Something that channels all that pent-up protocol energy into one big, beautiful, undiplomatic explosion." He paused, a wicked grin spreading across his face. "We blow the core. Not the whole station. Just enough to create a focused, localized EMP blast that messes with their stillness. And gives you a window." Serafina looked at him, then at the council. The plan was insane, suicidal. But Kael's shield of stillness wouldn't last, and the Riven were moments away from resuming their assault. "He means a controlled overload," she clarified, "targeting the Riven's localized fields. A precision strike using the station's own energy against them." Zarak slammed his fist down. "Preposterous. The risk is too great." "Is it?" Kael's voice was now sharp, cutting through the fear. "Or is the risk of doing nothing even greater? You want to know what human resilience looks like? It looks like this: making a choice when there are no good ones, and then living with it." He looked directly at Zarak's image on the screen. "Your move, Commander. The ultimate test of humanity's resilience and the galaxy's survival now rested on a teenager's desperate, audacious gamble. The Starlight Protocol Station, a beacon of peace, was about to become the ultimate weapon." High Commander Zarak's internal struggle was almost visible. His Dra'ken instincts screamed for direct, overwhelming force, yet Kael's unorthodox tactics had already proven terrifyingly effective. Ambassador Alara's soft humming voice cut through the tension. "Commander, the Riven are expanding their energy signature. Kael's stillness is beginning to waver. We are running out of time." Zarak slammed his massive fist on the console. "Fine, prepare the station's core for a calibrated overload. Technical teams, initiate a focused sonic assault, synchronized with the core discharge. Aim for their central nexus point." His eyes, usually filled with disdain for humans, now held a grudging respect as he looked at Kael on the screen. "Human Kael, your strategy is illogical. But perhaps, in this chaos, illogical is precisely what we need." Kael grinned, a flash of his usual bored demeanor returning. "That's the human way, big guy. We make sense of the nonsensical. Now, Ambassador Serafina, you ready to blow up a bit of your diplomatic station?" Serafina took a deep breath, her face set with determination. "Ready as I'll ever be." She issued the command to the station's core engineers, her voice crisp and clear amidst the blare of alarms. Outside the command center, Kael felt the Riven's frozen forms begin to tremble, their shadowy outlines blurring. The shield of stillness was indeed fading. He gritted his teeth, pouring every last ounce of his focus into maintaining the fragile calm. His vision blurred at the edges, and his body screamed in protest. The mementos in his wooden box pulsed faintly, a final desperate surge of remembered peace. Then the Starlight Protocol Station groaned, not the shudder of an attack, but a deep, resonant hum, building to an unbearable pitch. The synth crystal walls of the grand chamber began to glow, first a soft blue, then a brilliant white. The energy, usually diffused through countless diplomatic functions, was being drawn, concentrated, and channeled. Sonic assault initiated! Zarak's voice boomed over the comms. A wave of cacophonous sound, precisely tuned to disorient the Riven, surged from the Dra'ken fleet now positioned defensively around the station. The Riven, unaccustomed to such overwhelming sensory input, visibly recoiled, their forms flickering wildly. Core discharge in T-minus 10 seconds, an engineer yelled. Kael braced himself, pushing back against the Riven's reawakening aggression with every fiber of his being. His blue eyes, once again glowing faintly, were fixed on the vast, dark fleet. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, discharge! A blinding flash erupted from the core of the Starlight Protocol Station. Not an explosion of destructive force, but a concentrated, overwhelming burst of pure, raw electromagnetic stillness. It wasn't designed to destroy, but to overwhelm. The Riven fleet, cloaked in their unique, silent energy fields, were instantly caught in its embrace. Their ships flickered, then went dark. Their shadowy forms disintegrated into wisps of nothingness as their internal cohesion, their very essence of chaos, was momentarily negated by an opposing force of absolute order. The Riven recoiled, a collective cry of bewildered frustration echoing through the void, audible even through the station's weakened shields. Their silent, relentless momentum was broken. They were exposed, vulnerable, and for the first time, afraid. "Now, Commander?" Serafina screamed, her voice hoarse with adrenaline. Zarak didn't hesitate. "All Dra'ken ships, open fire. Target their command nexus. Drive them back!" The Dra'ken fleet, empowered by the Riven's momentary paralysis, unleashed a torrent of energy, blasts, and kinetic projectiles. The Riven, unable to fully reconstitute their defenses, scattered in disarray, their dark forms retreating into the depths of space. The tide had turned, not through conventional warfare, but through an audacious gamble on humanity's most inexplicable power. The battle was over as quickly as it had begun. The Starlight Protocol Station, though scarred, still stood. The Riven had retreated, a victory hard-won and entirely unexpected. Inside the command center, silence fell, broken only by the hum of damaged systems and the ragged breaths of the council members. Zarak, bruised but triumphant, looked at the main view screen, which now showed the retreating Riven. They fled! No species has ever made the Riven retreat. Ambassador Ilara, her emerald glow restored, floated gracefully towards Serafina. It was unprecedented, a strategy born of a different kind of logic. She looked at the feet of Kael, who was now slowly walking towards the main airlock, clutching his wooden box, looking utterly spent. Serafina smiled, a tired but proud curve of her lips. He used the station's energy to amplify his own resilience, a resonance. He took everything that makes humanity human, the stubbornness, the memory, the quiet joys, and turned it into a wave that disrupted their very nature. Kael, now at the airlock, turned back to the camera, a faint, almost imperceptible smirk on his face. "Told you," he mumbled. "We get boring really fast when there's nothing left to fight." He paused, then added, "Oh, and if anyone tries to neutralize us again, just remember, Earth always finds a way to make a mess. You just saw the polite version." With that, he stepped into the airlock, disappearing from view as the door hissed shut behind him. The council members stared at the empty screen, grappling with the profound implications of what they had just witnessed. Humanity, the seemingly primitive, volatile species, had just saved them from an ancient evil, not with weapons, but with the echoes of memories and the strange power of inner peace. Zarak, for the first time, looked truly thoughtful. "They fight with serenity, with the ghost of a garden. What kind of species is this?" Ambassador Alara hummed, a soft, harmonious sound. Perhaps, Commander, they are the kind of species that reminds us that there is more than one way to be strong. That the greatest power lies not in what you wield, but in what you are. She looked directly at the camera, as if addressing Kael himself. And perhaps they have just taught the galaxy a lesson it desperately needed to learn. The galaxy would forever remember the day a quiet human teenager, armed with nothing but memories in a wooden box, taught an ancient evil the meaning of stillness. The Starlight Protocol Station had been saved, but the understanding of humanity had been utterly transformed. If you were captivated by Kael's unexpected power and the unfolding saga of Earth's unique place in the cosmos, please subscribe to Alien Whispers, like this story, and share it with those who crave tales of the extraordinary. Join us as we continue to explore the hidden depths of the universe and the surprising resilience of the human spirit.